watching the nation's best college newscast. 11 News at Noon starts now.
McNeil trial. The prosecution tried to poke holes in Gypsy Willis's story, and his former cellmate testified to his guilt.
Business boom. The temple isn't the only new addition to Payson. It's attracting new businesses and boosting the local economy.
And hazards in the home. How outdated prescriptions sitting in your cupboard can do more harm than good. I'm Jessica Black.
And I'm Christy Jacinto. Welcome to 11 News at Noon. The prosecution is continuing their examination of witnesses in the Martin McNeil trial.
Inmate number 1 and McNeil's ex-mistress Gypsy Willis both took the stand this morning. First on the stand was one of McNeil's former cellmates.
Why are you a key witness?
Because he told me.
He told you what?
That he killed his wife.
The defense argued that the inmate was only testifying to shorten his sentence. He disagreed, saying that he's risking his life to be there and just wanted to do the right thing. Prosecutors then tried to prove that Gypsy Willis is the reason McNeil murdered his wife. They had her read dozens of love letters she and McNeil wrote while she was in prison. In a past hearing, Gypsy testified she and McNeil's relationship was over at that time, but prosecutors say the letters tell a different story.
You were not telling the defendant it was over. You were continuing.
I was encouraging the male, yes. I was lonely, and it was wonderful to have some kind of support.
And here.
The prosecution rested its case, and the defense is starting their examination of the man they say McNeil called after he found his wife.
Cities electing government officials had a lower voter turnout than those with a ballot measure. Pleasant Grove voted on a public safety bond and had a 30% registered voter turnout. Provo, on the other hand, didn't have any ballot measures, and only 15% of registered voters showed up to vote. Ryan Franson lost his campaign for Provo City Council by only 65 votes. He says that he doesn't intend to request a recount despite the close tally. A new temple steeple is on the horizon in Payson. 11 News reporter Andrea May shows us how this new place of worship is helping more than just the local members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
The Payson Temple is nearing completion, and the surrounding businesses are anticipating the attention the temple will bring to their small town. Restaurants in Payson say they are expecting the nearly completed temple in their city to serve up some new opportunities. The owner of Dalton Steakhouse says he expects their close proximity to a temple will increase business.
You know, we're right in the main path, and so we're hoping to have great business with that.
Shirtliff says he hopes Payson Temple visitors will make Dalton's a part of their temple-going experience.
After they go to the temple, they can come here for a great, dinner, steak dinner.
The building of the temple isn't only affecting restaurants. The city says the farmland that surrounds the temple will eventually be houses and businesses. Payson City Manager David Tuckett says the city is working with the church to make that area of town a place that people will want to be. Even though the temple isn't complete, the area around the temple has already begun to see some growth.
We have seen a couple of buildings start to pop up down near the 8 South, and we think as it gets closer to opening that there will be more interest and more businesses.
Local stores and restaurants like Dalton's say they plan on business picking up once the temple open house begins, and for the growth to continue once the temple is open and operational. The city says they look forward to the temple opening by the end of 2014 or the beginning of 2015. Christy?
Thanks, Andrea. A convicted child molester will remain in Utah State Prison following pleas of his victims to keep him there for life. Prison authorities were set to release Michael DePorto on November 26th, but reversed that decision after hearing 5 women's comments. DePorto has served 15 years for sexual abuse and sodomy of a child. The board will keep him in prison for 2 more years.
Let's face it, students don't like homework, but as 11 News reporter Jake Edmonds tells us, 2 BYU athletes are doing their homework for more than just a grade.
It's not often you get to mix sports with school. But what happens when you do? You get Stats 497R, a new analytics class at BYU.
Or you could do it both. You could do it year home and away by year.
Professor Gilbert Fellingham is an associate chairman of the statistics department at BYU. He got the idea while analyzing the strength and conditioning program at the school and decided to get students involved.
At the end of last year, I sent out an advertisement for who would be interested in getting involved in that project, and I got so much response, I decided the best thing to do is just start a class.
For some students, the class provides a way to get a grade for following sports. And for others, like cross-country runners Jason Witt and Steve Flint, it's a chance to improve their own game.
What we're doing right now is kind of working our way backwards, looking at what historically it takes to get on the podium and how we can fit that into our team.
We're analyzing the different splits that are, 2K, 5K, and 8K splits throughout the cross-country nationals course, and figuring out what is the ideal way to run the race.
If you think the idea sounds familiar, you may have watched the movie Moneyball. It tells a story of a baseball general manager who uses statistics to give his team an edge. And while Jason and Steve are analyzing a different sport, they hope to have the same outcome.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you're pulling out data and trying to find interesting things and try to boost your performance based off sports stats. So I'd say so. There are a lot of similarities in that regard.
So while the class may seem like fun and games some of the time, it's helping teach practical skills that students are using to analyze and, in the end, improve sports, including their own. On the BYU campus, Jake Edmonds, 11 News.
The Cougars will try to translate all those stats onto the track for the NCAA Championships November 23rd in Indiana. When 11 News at noon returns. Hidden danger, why it's important to check the expiration date before pulling pills out of your medicine cabinet.
In Chimney Sneaker, a Florida man tried to break into a home Grinch style, but hit a snag along the way. New Yorkers are taking a religious battle to the Supreme Court this week, and that could change the way we pray in government settings. Courtgoers from a suburb in New York are suing over prayers in the government. They want to eliminate explicit references to any specific religion. Courts haven't addressed prayer in a government setting since 1983, and justices expect to make a ruling by June.
Have you ever wondered if the use-by dates on medication really mean anything? 11 News reporter Allie Monson shows us how to interpret drug expiration dates and what to do with those past due pills.
About every week, these officers empty out the drug deposit box at the Sandy police station. People voluntarily drop off their outdated prescriptions here and other police stations across the state to get rid of them.
After you drop it off, as you saw, we collect it, take it into evidence.
Almost every American home has at least one expired drug in it, according to the American Academy of Pediatrics. But what really does expired mean?
You know, with a pharmacy, we give a medication a one-year expiration date, but in a lot of instances, even the expiration date that we give is before the manufacturer's expiration date.
The Food and Drug Administration recently studied the accuracy of drug expiration dates.
And they found that approximately 90% of medications had expiration dates that should have been much longer.
If this is the case, then why do pharmacies mark all medicine expired within just 1 year?
Medication should be taken as prescribed, when prescribed, and for what it was prescribed.
Doctors say it's dangerous when people use old medicine later on, whether it's expired or not.
They're no longer tolerant to it. And at that circumstance, they actually may be at risk for dying.
After police collect the outdated prescriptions, they take them over to the State Incineration Center in Layton.
Now, once the medication gets here and is ready to be incinerated, it actually gets mixed in with 400 other tons of waste, and it goes right in here.
Get rid of it. It's something that is hazardous in the home.
Officers say burning the drugs keeps thieves away from stealing them from your house, and also that it takes away the temptation to take someone else's prescription. In Sandy, Allie Monson, 11 News.
Sometimes people also flush old medicine down the sink, but state health department officials say not to do that because the chemicals get into our water system.
An Oklahoma teen faces felony murder charges. A small plane crashes in Missouri, leaving 2 dead, and a bumbling burger gets stuck in Florida. Here's your look at news from across the nation. An Oklahoma teen faces felony murder charges in the shooting of an Australian baseball player. Christopher Lane was out for a jog when police say Michael Jones and 2 of his friends drove by and shot Lane. Police say Jones told them they didn't have anything to do, so they decided to kill somebody. All 3 boys will appear in court later this month. Police are investigating the cause of a fatal plane crash that took the lives of 2 people in northeastern Missouri. The aircraft went down in a wooded area near the Kirksville Regional Airport in Adair County. The wreckage spread across a wide area, and the bodies of the victims landed in a ditch not far from the cockpit. And a wannabe burglar in Florida tried to break into a home through the chimney, but got stuck instead. Cell phone video shows fire crews lifting Richard Brandon from this narrow stack. The chimney sweep was not alone. His friend and accomplice called rescue teams for help after Brandon got stuck on the descent. This was the second house the bad Santas hit that night. Both men are in jail facing burglary charges. And that's your look at news from across the nation. Back to you, Jessica.
Seems like things are heating up in Florida, but cooling down in Utah. Chris, what can we expect?
Yeah, well, pretty much some pretty typical fall weather here in Utah. And actually, the forecast isn't too bad, but other parts of the world, in particular, the Philippines, are having some major weather events. More 11 News West. All right, so pretty much a decent day, at least here in northern Utah. Provo, we can look out from BYU campus. You can see some high clouds, so not necessarily cloudy, but really not sunny either, just kind of an in-between day. And we're actually going to stay like that for the next 24 hours into tomorrow, but then by tomorrow, midday, we should clear up quite nicely. Actually, though, our top story, at least in weather, is not here in Utah, but take a look at this. This is Super Typhoon Haiyan. It is just, you can see the Philippines just outlined right about here. And this storm is making big news because it has sustained winds of 190 miles per hour. That is really, really fast. Actually, we haven't had an Atlantic hurricane that strong since the 60s. Anyway, long story short, it is a very big typhoon, about 500 miles across. So to put that in local perspective, that's about Tremonton to Las Vegas. So definitely a big storm. Missionaries there, though the church always does take good care of them, so they should be all right. Currently, though, at least here in Provo, much, much nicer. Current temperature of about 45 degrees, humidity 65%, and then variable wind speeds at about 5 miles per hour. So nothing too bad really here. A fantastic day, and we're going to continue to see unusually warm fall weather throughout the week. State highs throughout the state. 50s, 55 in Provo, 59 here in Provo. The only area that's a little bit on the cooler side is the eastern basins, Vernal and Price, and they're going to be seeing temperatures in the upper 40s and then overnight lows a little bit colder than the rest of the state as well. Tonight here in Provo specifically, 38 degrees, partly cloudy, and sunset will be about 5:16 p.m. Definitely can tell we've passed the time change because that's pretty early in my humble opinion. State lows throughout the night. Again, not too chilly, 41 in Salt Lake. And then again, the cold spots, the eastern basins, Vernal and Price, are the only ones getting down into the 20s. The rest of the state, not too bad. In St. George, even a little bit cooler than Salt Lake at 40 degrees. As far as the 5-day forecast, southern Utah, really fantastic forecast, 70s throughout the 5-day forecast. You can even see into Sunday and Monday, Monday being Veterans Day, a high of 73. And then northern Utah, fairly similar, just a couple degrees cooler. 60 for a high of tomorrow, but then by the weekend, low to mid 60s even on Monday. So a fantastic forecast and not too cold actually for the Madison game, at least on Saturday.
Yeah, I think I can work with that.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully it's pretty warm for our Cougars over there, but what else can we expect, Clark, for this game this weekend?
Yeah, you can always expect cold weather when you go to Wisconsin, but we should all expect a knockdown, drag-out battle against the Badgers. I think the Cougars will be ready. Next on sports, staying classy. Another week, another award nomination for Kyle Van Noy, and this one could be the senior's most prestigious yet. And not so smooth jazz. A few sour notes to begin the season has Jazz fans singing the blues, while Utah's NBA team is making history, and not in a good way. Time to get your popcorn ready. Sports is next. The year of the KVN continues. Are you getting tired of hearing about his award nominations? Good, me neither. Kyle Van Noy is one of 10 finalists for the Senior Class Award, class being an acronym in this case, which stands for Celebrating Loyalty and Achievement for Staying in School. Many thought of Van Noy would go pro after an unbelievable junior season, but the star linebacker decided to stay at BYU and has shined as a senior. Other finalists include Alabama's A.J. McCarron and the Cougars' soon-to-be foe, Wisconsin linebacker Chris Borland. Whether you're the star of the team or the last player on the bench, football is all about commitment. 11 Sports reporter Roger Sanchez tells us why tradition, spirit, and honor mean everything to one player who's leaving it all behind.
Before these BYU football players ever ran on the field for the start of a game, they had to come together as a team. In a unique tradition up in Provo Canyon, they are told to bring something that represents who they are.
A lot of guys would bring a high school t-shirt or jersey.
So I brought this magazine with me, and when we got there, all of us were asked to sacrifice whatever we have, throw it in the fire, watch it burn.
He stood up and he had a surf magazine.
But as it was my turn, I stepped up to the fire and had this magazine in my hand. It wasn't just a magazine that I was throwing in the fire, but it just represented everything that I had left behind.
Frio had thrown into a fire a surfing magazine that symbolized who he was.
As I got up there, I got kind of choked up, started bawling my eyes out.
I was just kind of like, who is this guy that's up here crying his eyes out over a magazine, you know?
That guy, as it turns out, is a tight end with a passion for football, willing to give up everything for a team he has always wanted to be a part of.
I left behind my family, friends, everything that I had known, everything I had been comfortable with growing up.
Frio from the
Coach Bronco Mendenhall is a surfer himself and gave Friel a whole stack of surfing magazines after their hike up Provo Canyon. The Utah Jazz have been less than impressive and inspiring to start the season. The boys looking for their first W against the also winless Celtics. Brad Stevens and Gordon Hayward reunited as opponents after their time together at Butler. First quarter, it's Hayward, and he says, "Sorry, coach." Fast break slam, and you know what? That was fun. Let's do it again. Richard Jefferson this time, and the Jazz take the early lead. They're up 7. That wouldn't last long, though. Shot clock winding down for Jeff Green from Jimmer range. He did what? Deep ball puts the Green guys up 6, but the Celtics not done. Brandon Bass with the old school baby hook in the lane. Boston up 25 now. That escalated quickly. Garbage time. Avery Bradley with the board. And, guys, some defense, please. Bass all alone, and the Jazz fall to 0-5 for the first time since '74 when the team was still in New Orleans. 97-87 final. Kevin Durant with the nice layup there. He's the division rival for Utah. And looking like an and-one mixtape. Vince Carter did not have a good night. Gets roughed up there and then cheap shot right to the face of Steven Adams. He would be ejected, hit the showers early. Now, in the fourth, it's KD's Thunder Buddy for life. Russell Westbrook, I'm back. Westbrook looking like his own old self and soars for the throwdown. That puts things to bed. OKC stomps the Mavs 107-93. Marquee matchup of the night, Pacers Bulls, and it's good to have my dude D Rose back in action. Freaky first step to get to the cup. That puts the Bulls up 7. The tide would turn, however, on this play. Luis Scola, some nice defense, and look at the big man go. Coast to coast for the tough finish. That sparked a 25-9 run for Indiana. Bulls last gasp, Kurz Heinrich with the turnover, and Lance Stevenson, the 8th grader. That's game. Pacers are the last remaining unbeaten in the NBA. 97-80 win over Chicago. Meanwhile, back in Chi-Town, the Blackhawks skated their way to an easy 4-1 victory over the Winnipeg Jets. But then this happened. Time winding down in the third period when the Blackhawks' Dave Bolland brings down the house through the glass. But keep an eye on Jets player Adam Party. Did you see it? A Chicago fan steals Party's helmet, takes it right off his dome, and then puts it on himself. To be honest, I really don't know what to make of that. The fan would return the helmet, and the game finished with minimal delay after workers replaced the glass. Believe it or not, that's not our play of the day. This is. Louisville's Kevin Ware, 7.5 months removed from his gruesome leg fracture, returns to the court. A standing ovation from the crowd, and Ware, with his first shot back, that's money. The junior finished with 6 points and 4 rebounds and talked about his return after the game.
I was
Just ready to get in. I've been waiting for this moment for 220 days now, so I'm happy.
Guys, that's why I love sports. You cannot script this stuff sometimes. Just 7.5 months removed from that gruesome, gruesome injury. It's nothing short of inspirational what he did to get back.
I know. I'm still scarred from that video.
Yeah, thanks, Clark. Still to come on 11 News at noon. Olympics in space. Apparently a relay across Russia wasn't enough. This torch is going on a spacewalk.
The rocket carrying the Olympic torch has reached the International Space Station.
And we had liftoff.
This video shows the rocket taking off with the torch safe in the hands of one of the 3 crew members. Last night, the rocket docked and the crew boarded the space station with the unlit torch. 2 cosmonauts will take the torch out for a spacewalk and bring it back to Earth so it can continue on its journey heralding the Winter 2014 Games.
That is awesome. I wonder if they've done this in the past or if it's the first time.
Pretty sure it's the first time, but I'm just glad they didn't have a lit flame on the International
somebody was
Space
using their head when they extinguished the flame.
Well, that's 11 News at noon for November 7th.
You can join us anytime on our website, 11news.byu.edu.
Thanks for watching. Have a great afternoon.